What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping back into Destiny 2 with the arrival of Festival of the Lost. So that's kicking off with this week's reset. Bungie have outlined that we get some new activity content, finally, as of course Festival of the Lost has relied on more or less the same activities for a few years at this point, but we've got a new 6-player activity. There's even a PvP Rumble mode that has headless ones chiming into the battle, which will be pretty interesting. And Bungie have released some new weapons that are coming, and they certainly have interesting sandbox capabilities as well as their new Holofoils, which look pretty wild. But in this video, we're going to focus specifically on the weapons, all of the roles that we can get for the new festival stuff this year. Some of them look pretty good, and reward tiers for gear in Festival will actually be boosted, so that's going to give a lot more players opportunities at Tier 4, and especially Tier 5 gear will have a lot of appeal during this event. Kinda like with Solstice back in the summer, as it will allow players to get higher tier loot than what they normally have dropped. So we're going to round up a few things in this one. If you guys find the video helpful, a rating really does help me out on the channel, but otherwise, let's get into it. I do have a couple of separate videos related to Festival of the Lost with a general overview of the rewards this year, new armor, additional reward things, and the activities, so if you want to check out any of that stuff ahead of the event, I'll link a couple of videos down below. Importantly though, this time around Bungie have said that gear will drop at 1 tier higher than your standard reward drops, and I believe, as far as I understand it from memory, that should mean that players above 200 power will be able to earn tier 4 weapons, and for players above 300 power, for this event specifically, the weapon drops should be tier 5. Obviously, with some folks dipping out of the power grind earlier on, but also the fact that Bungie have boosted players up to 300 power with the reward chest in the tower, this is going to make Festival pretty rewarding in terms of the actual gear tiers that we're getting dropped. So, if I'm not mistaken, over 300 power will result in tier 5 weapons. So that's a big part of the appeal this time around. On top of that, if you're coming back to the game, Bungie have implemented a bunch of changes to power leveling, which speeds up progression. So, given that power level is not resetting in Renegades, any progress you make during Festival will be pretty accelerated and also beneficial for the future, so a couple of things worth bearing in mind on that front. But looking at weapons, which we'll focus on a bit more in this one, Bungie are introducing a new SMG, which is a lightweight frame, and it comes with kinetic damage. There's a base skin for it, as well as a holofoil variant, and the holofoils have this green glow on them, which is pretty cool. For perks on this weapon though, slot 1 can get Bewildering Burst, where reloading the weapon after defeating a target causes the next hit to launch a kinetic projectile that detonates into a disorienting blast, so that should actually blind targets. Slot 1 can also get Lone Wolf, Threat Detector, Stats for All, then there's Recycled Energy, Pugilist, and Lead from Light, with the second slot able to roll Attrition Orbs, as well as Kinetic Tremors and then Ancillary Ordnance, where Rapid Elemental Final Blows and Final Blows on targets affected by elemental debuffs will periodically prepare a homing micro-missile, and that's launched from your target after the weapon's next final blow. Plus we can prepare multiple missiles with that. So there are a couple of interesting bonuses which are brand new on this weapon. Otherwise, it can also roll Target Lock, One for All, Wellspring, and Binary Orbit in the second slot. So the interesting combos on this weapon include things like Bewildering Burst and Kinetic Tremors. Obviously, Bewildering Burst is going to be good for groups of targets, as kills will be able to disorient them, and then you can follow up with Kinetic Tremors kills, which will basically shockwave those disoriented targets, which is pretty good. I was curious whether Bewildering Burst and Ancillary Ordnance would interact with each other. I'm assuming that Disorienting Burst technically applies blind, which is a debuff, but it's not an elemental debuff, so I don't want to promise that Bewildering Burst and Ancillary Ordnance will actually work together, although it would be nice. Of course, Ancillary Ordnance will proc from elemental debuffs from other sources though, so alternatively, it will pair well with Recycled Energy, for instance, as that'll help abilities come in order to apply more debuffs, so that's one option. Otherwise, Threat Detector, Recycled Energy, Pugilist, and Lead from Light are decent perks in the first slot, depending on what you're looking for, and the other most popular second slot perks will be things like Attrition Orbs, which will pair well with most things, including Bewildering Burst. Then there's also Target Lock, which is good for bonus damage. Typically players want to pair this with high magazines from Subsistence or similar things, but there aren't any perks which actually extend mag size, which is unfortunate. Although it does have Voiced Stinger as the origin trait, and that has a chance to reload the magazine, it just of course is not super consistent. Otherwise, in the second slot, Binary Orbit is another damage perk option, granting 25% bonus damage for 8 seconds with the weapon after making kills with light weapons. So if you pair this with Solar, Arc, or Void weapons and damage in general, it's going to give you a pretty big damage boost. And that actually competes pretty well with target lock, as they're both up to 25%, but of course binary orbit doesn't require you to stay on the same target for the whole time, so depending on what you're doing, there are options there for damage bonuses as well. But I'd be curious, what perks are you looking out for on Gunburn? Probably this will be the most popular weapon for Festival this year, but share your thoughts on it down below. Next up though, we have Hushed Whisper, again getting the same visual treatments as the other weapons for Festival, and this one of course is a strand precision frame bow, so the first trade slot can get Tear, as well as Impulse Amplifier, Successful Warm-Up, then there's Lone Wolf, Lead from Light, Snapshot Sights, and Slice, and in the second slot we can get Archer's Gambit, Hatchling, Explosive Head, Collective Pugilism, Collective Action, Aggregate Charge, and Precision Instrument. So Slice or Tear with Aggregate Charge mean that severed targets will take more damage. I'd probably go for Tear as it will sever other nearby targets, and that'll make the bow pretty strong on groups of enemies, although the damage buff from charge scales, so the more debuffs we apply to targets, the more damage Aggregate Charge will actually put out, so it's most effective where multiple debuffs are applied. But nonetheless, even with Tear or Slice, there will almost always be a level 1 damage boost, so it's worth looking at. Otherwise, this one can't get Archer's Tempo, but it does have Successful Warm-Up, so that'll pair nicely with anything in slot 2 really, but especially Successful Warm-Up with Hatchling, Precision Instrument, and Explosive Head will be pretty good options. But if you're throwing a lot of strand tangles depending on your build, then having Collective Action or Pugilism can be pretty fun, especially Collective Action for the damage boost, as that will grant 20% extra damage. And otherwise, there are a handful of good perk options and combinations. I guess we've focused on things that make this bow in particular unique, but otherwise, it could be a decent replacement for bows like Non-Denouement or Raconteur in the tiered system. It's quite similar to Vengeful Whisper from Season of the Wish as well, so if you're looking for a new strand-focused bow, there are certainly some good options on it, and definitely give us your thoughts on it down below. The final new weapon, or featured weapon, actually, this one's returning of course, is Arcane Embrace. And this is an arc heavy burst shotgun, where the first trade slot can get 4th times the charm, Reconstruction, Lone Wolf, Rapid Hit, Envious Assassin, as well as Dual Loader or Grave Robber. Then the second slot can get Rolling Storm, Volt Shot, Precision Instrument, Surrounded, Aggregate Charge, Dragonfly, and Collective Pugilism. So a lot of good options on this shotgun. And with it having Volt Shot and Rolling Storm in the second slot, it's worth bearing in mind there are a lot of first slot bonuses which auto-reload. So Rolling Storm paired with reload bonuses like Envious Assassin, Reconstruction, obviously will make the most sense, as those bonuses will not allow Volt Shot to be procced on the next kill. But it can do things like Rapid Hit and Volt Shot of course, so if you really want to run Volt Shot, Rapid Hit is about the only manual reload boost that'll actually work with it. On top of that, Dual Loader and Volt Shot work, but obviously Volt Shot will only proc on the first kill after the reload. The auto-loading options like Reconstruction or Envious though will work nicely with Precision Instrument, as sustained damage will boost precision damage, and obviously having high magazines will be beneficial in that instance, but other damage options are Aggregate Charge, that will rely on elemental debuffs from other sources, and then there's Surrounded, and that's pretty significant because it's a 40% damage boost if you're close to 3 enemies, so it'll pair very nicely with any of the slot 1 perks, but again if you want big magazines, there are options there, and otherwise, Grave Robber and Surrounded are pretty synergistic on a shotgun as well, if you're focusing a little bit on the melee component. So again, some good options on this, and let me know what you look out for. I'm most interested to try Gunburn, especially the 2 bonuses that are new, Bewildering Burst and Ancillary Ordnance. Certainly have a lot of potential. But I guess in the first few days of Festival, we'll get a sense of what are the actual best options on these new or updated weapons. But for the moment, give me your thoughts down in the comment section. Which weapons are you most excited for, and what kind of roles will you be looking out for? I think we'll have plenty of opportunities to actually get these weapons between the event track, Engrams that we earn in the activities, which will probably be the primary way to actually farm them in terms of roles. And I believe there's ways to buy Engrams with candy and stuff as well. So considering we've focused pretty much exclusively on the weapon side in this video, there'll also be the armor and additional rewards, cosmetics and all of that. So overall, hopefully, Festival's going to be a pretty rewarding event. Let me know what you're excited for in the comment section. Any juicy weapons that you've picked up once Festival is live. I'd love to get your thoughts down below. Otherwise, if you've enjoyed the video, a rating really does help me out on the channel, and be sure as well to get subscribed for more Destiny content. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.